everything pretty much is out there.
All right, I just each other then. My husband was I am not selling the lighthouse. I just want to go on record. Good evening, everybody. We're going to start the meeting now. I'm sorry we're a little late. This is Administration and Public Works Committee, and the first announcement is that 2 of our members have birthdays tonight. I've never been able to say this. I'm going to get to that. Alderman Burris and Alderman Grover, and then yesterday was Alderman Braithwaite's birthday, and then I think earlier in the week was City Manager Bob Quitt's birthday. So, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen.
We're not going to sing happy birthday?
No, we're not going to sing. Pardon me? All right. First item is approval of the minutes of July 8. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items for consideration, the payroll through June 30th, $2,801,415.86.
Second.
Bills, $2,857,592.18.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Burris? Did you want to move?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
3
thought you were
minutes?
talking about the bills.
Oh, do you want to read the bills?
No,
Oh,
I just thought my light was on.
oh.
I'd like to move approval of the one-year contract extension for Badger Meter Incorporated for the water meter purchase contract.
I would second that.
Okay. Is there any discussion among the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
If I may move approval of a 3.2, which is a contract with FD
In your
2013
microphone,
HVAC improvement project, bid 1348,
I'll second.
in the amount of $489,300 for both the police headquarters, I believe, and the Levy Center.
Alderman Holmes. Was there a second?
There was a second by Alderman Redford, but I believe that there was an amendment sent this afternoon.
Really?
Yes, I
Oh, I'm sorry.
Something in my packet, didn't I? I mean,
Yes,
on my email.
Oh,
And it's on the.
okay, it's right here. Could we take a minute, everybody just take a look and see what, would somebody like to explain the nature of the email?
I could pull it up.
A lot of finger pointing going on here.
Oh, here it is.
I was behind in my work today, and I did not look at this email.
Good evening, Madam
Okay.
Chair, members of the
Yes.
committee. Marty Lyons, Assistant City Manager. In preparing the work, we just had a disconnect in the memo where we had thought it was, the total was $489,300 when the total was actually $588,185. And what that does on page 105 of 731 of your packet, it would change the funding from account 415688, which is the Ecology Center, which is being recommended to be deferred. That number will change to what is in your packet, where the number is now. Suzette, 160. I don't have that in front of me on this packet. Yes, it'll. Is 185. That project was originally scheduled for $270,000. So the Capital Improvements Fund, we already were scheduled to borrow the funds for that project, for the bonds being approved this evening.
The Ecology Center is still being held, though, right?
Correct.
For a later date. All right, say the 588,000 number again.
588, 185.
185, even, right?
Yes.
So amend my motion?
Amend my motion for approval of the contract for HVAC improvement to include $175,000 for the police fire headquarters, $250,000 for the Levy Center, and $163,185 for the Ecology Center. That project to be deferred until next year.
I'm sorry, if I may, it is actually for the Levy Center and the police fire headquarters. Those are the two places that are getting
Those
HVAC
two, right.
improvements, and we're using funds from the Ecology Center project, which is being deferred.
So we'll just leave
Thank
that
you, we'll
out
do
of the
that.
motion for now. Okay. All right, there's a second, and any discussion, though? Thank you, Alderman Holmes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move approval of contract with T.Y. Lin International for the Evanston Bicycle Plan Update Project in the amount of $120,321.58.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Grover?
Madam Chair, thank you. And Director Robinson, could you help us understand what this project brings to us that we don't already have in planning for our bicycle infrastructure?
And
What would be new in this plan, and what adds $100,000 of value to our bicycle infrastructure planning?
could I add to that? Could you also mention the source of funding, that we've got a major grant that is wonderful work on the part of our staff?
Okay. Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works. This is actually an update to our bike plan. And what we are taking a look at is the previous bike plan before just created a network, and it really didn't look at users. So we're actually going back and taking a look at the users and the traffic patterns established by those users. We're looking at major employers, we're looking at the university, we're looking at high school students, and we're going to actually evaluate the paths that they take and see what we can do to improve the connectivity in those locations. So it'll be a very targeted approach, and we're also going to make, I think, major connections as it relates to the university's students that are biking as well. So we're not looking at putting bike facilities on every street. We're looking at creating a bike network that gets people to the origins and destinations where they want to go. So, it's that focused approach that CMAP who gave us a grant for $100,000 to do the update to the plan.
And our share of it is about $20,000 for this?
That's correct.
And would it also include some additional study about connectivity to Wilmette, Skokie, and Chicago? That is, plugging us into this larger network of bicycling paths and so forth?
Yes, that's correct. And it'll also look at the facilities, storage facilities where it makes sense, secure storage facilities as well. So not just the infrastructure, it will the roadways themselves and trails, but it will also look at the bike parking and storage.
This requires special expertise from this particular, or one of two who responded to the bid, expertise of one of these consultants to do this?
That's correct. And TY Lin is also the company that did the multimodal transportation system, so they have a vast knowledge of Evanston, and so we think they would be the ideal consulting to move us forward without actually having to create a lot of the data, because they have a lot of it already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions on this? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending to the council?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Madam
Next.
Chair, I would
Yes.
move approval of contract with Schroeder and Schroeder for the 2013 alley paving projects in the amount of $497,590.06.
Excellent. I have a question on this. Director Robinson? When, and I don't see Sarah Flax here, no. When was the Dobson Alley east of Hartree approved? We've been trying to get that done for so long. That's going to be done with CD funds, right? Yeah. We did a survey there and found that it was, the income qualified for that.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee, said senior engineer. Yes, the survey was done, and we will be using the CDBG funds to pave the alley north of Howard, east of Hartree.
Right, yeah. For one block to Gray.
That's
Yes.
good.
Okay. Right, thank you. I
And we'll,
didn't know that it had met
And we'll start construction mid-August.
mid-August. Okay, all right. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending 3-4 to the council?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next,
Madam Chair.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Yeah, sure. Item 3.5, approval of Grandmother Park project. Staff recommends the adoption of Resolution 36R13, authorizing the city manager to amend the agreement with the Grandmother Park Initiative and Core Lands to allow for the construction of the new park at 1125 Dewey. Grandmother Park Initiative has raised the required revenue needed to complete this park according to the estimates reviewed by the city staff and Grandmother Park representatives. GPI recommends the use of nature's perspective for this project.
Second.
Alderman Burris.
As usual, I am stating my opposition to this project, and I want to know why we're not going with the lowest bidder. That's actually particularly Evanston Community Builders, where we've given them funding through CDBG, and we've been trying to encourage use of community builders. So I would like some explanation on why we aren't going with the lowest bidder and going back with the same company that they were working with previously, even though we asked for bids. So it was kind of a waste of time if we weren't really seriously going to look at the other bids that were put in. So I was wondering if someone can respond to that.
Alderman Burris, I'll do what you want. Do you want a staff member or a member from the park group, because they're here?
If a staff member actually has the information, that would be fantastic. I would hopeful that a staff member would have worked on this and looking at the bids.
Oops, here comes a staff member.
Artie Lyons, Assistant City Manager, members of the committee. We did meet with, as noted in the memo, we met with Evanston Community Builders. We also met with Nature's Perspective on numerous occasions as noted in the memo and as noted in the attached letter from Grandmother Park. At the June 10th council meeting, the committee directed staff to obtain quotations from local vendors. And at that time, it was this staff person's understanding that that was to determine whether or not other local construction firms could accomplish the project. And we did find these 3 quotations. We are looking at the overall results, and Grandmother Park is the grantor. They are providing all of the funding for the construction, and if it was, we're saying we'll go with their recommendation because we're using their funds.
Well, I just want to correct you on one. I was the one that asked for this, and I wasn't on a fishing trip to see if others were able to bid on this. I was pretty sure they could. What I wanted to see is, you know, how in line were the bid, was the bid they got from Nature's Perspective. And like the memo says, it was in the middle. So to me, that's in line. And that's who's done all really the basic work over there up until now. So I don't have any problem with that.
Can I make-
Alderman Burris, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Mr. Lyons, I would actually like to clarify your statement. Not all the funds have been raised. Some of the funds are coming from the city of Evanston. So I want to be very clear that these are all not private funds. These are taxpayer funds that are coming to do this project. So $50,000 from the Economic Development Fund, $17,000 from CDBG. So just want to make sure that people know that it's not all privately raised funds. So the city should have a say in the construction, who's doing the construction. And if the plan is to turn it over to be a city park, we should absolutely have say in the construction. And if the city's going to be responsible for upkeep and maintenance long term, once again, the city should have a say. So it's not just about the Grandmother Park initiative, because the city's the one that's going to be liable for anything going forward on this piece of property.
Alderman Grover. Then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think given Nature's Perspectives, really superior familiarity with the park itself, having drawn up the original plans and done a lot of donated both those plans and the maintenance, that like you, I'm glad to see that their estimate for the work does come within range of other good local vendors. So I'll support this. This is
Thank you.
within the
Alderman
realm of the
Braithwaite?
reasonable.
Yeah, if there isn't much to add, I also agree with the chair in terms of her statement. I just want to make a correction, Alderman Burris. What I heard Mr. Lyons state is that the 200 plus was going to go to the construction. So you're correct. The city is paying, but the CBDG funds are going for the acquisition of the land. It's the construction that his comments was directed to. So if I haven't said so, Marty, I'll say so public. Just thank you very much for all your work on this project. I really appreciate it. I think not only have you helped me to understand this process, but what we're doing is we're creating a new form of public funding, public-private funding between the city and the neighborhood. So here's a perfect example of a neighborhood group getting together to raise funds for a community park. And later on this summer, I'll be meeting with another group of residents doing very similar with Penny Park.
Oh, okay.
With
but
Penny
not
Park.
a new park.
No, with Penny Park. So to Marty, thank you, and to the Grandmother Park Board behind you, thank you all also. Congratulations on a job well done.
Alderman Burris.
We're talking about a $32,000 difference, and that $32,000 we could have put back in the Economic Development Fund to help businesses. So if they didn't need the $32,000, you could have gone with the lower bid, or more money could have been put toward other things in the city. Community Development Block Grant money is also money that goes to low and moderate income people and initiatives. We could have used it for that instead of going with the higher bidder. So again, being fiscally responsible, it's what I believe in. I think we should all stand by that, and it's concerning that we don't.
Anybody else? Alderman? No. All right. I just think that it was unfortunate that Marty said that we were just looking to see if anybody else could do this project. I mean, we do these kinds of projects all the time. We know there are others out there. The purpose of asking for the bids was to see if this bid was a reasonable bid. There's no way to know that without other bids. There's no way. So, and if it had been unreasonable, which it wasn't, I would not be supporting it, but it was reasonable. So that's why I did not support this project to begin with. However, they did what they said. I'm supporting it. There's no reason not to. Another thing is, I am certain, and I saw Stephanie earlier, that the city will be overseeing this in some way. I mean, we're not going to allow for equipment that goes in that's not, approved safe equipment and things. I'm sure. Is that right, Steph? Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So, I'm feeling comfortable with it. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of recommending or allowing or supporting the use of nature's perspective and the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Hearing yes. One opposed. Okay. Moving on. The natural gas purchase, Alderman Grover.
Madam Chair, it's A4. I move approval of amendment to the agency agreement for management of our natural gas purchase and an amendment to the agreement for purchase of natural gas for 16 city-owned buildings when the strike price is below $5 per MMBTU.
1 million. Mm-hmm. 1 million BTU.
And that's my motion.
Second.
With Twin Eagle Resource Management.
All right, any discussion? Did you include the second amendment, Alderman Grover?
Yes, I
It
did.
was 5. Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion about this? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item is Simpson Street.
I move resolution 46R-13, 1223 Simpson Street, Boiler Room Apartment Lease Renewal.
Second.
And this is at the same rate for August 1st through July 31st, 2014.
And there was an explanation as to why it remained the same?
I think it's excellent.
I do too.
Excellent. Very, very happy this has all worked out. Any further discussion?
For many years.
For
They've
many
been our
years,
tenants there
since
for many years.
2005.
Great family.
A little rocky, but everything's cool now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
Electric vehicles.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
ordinance 57-0-13, amending Title 10 to regulate parking in electric vehicles charging stations. Staff recommends City Council consideration of ordinance 57-0-13, which amends the Title 10 regarding restricted use of electric vehicles charging stations and parking violations penalties to regulate parking in electric vehicles charging stations.
Okay.
Moving.
Any discussion? What this ordinance says, for those who haven't read this and are in the audience, is that you can't park at one of these slots unless your car is plugged in. Right?
Right.
And Madam Chair, I assume there will be lots of appropriate signage there.
Oh,
As
God, I
well.
hope so. Yeah.
Not lots, just appropriate signage. Yeah.
And as long as it's,
Is what?
never mind. As long as it's coordinated.
Coordinated?
It's okay.
Sure it will be. City Attorney, could I ask a question? Can we go on private property to enforce this? I can't remember reading that.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, grant for our Corporation Council, the answer is yes.
Oh, good, okay. Because there are charging stations at the Walgreens at Dodge and Main. There are 2 spaces, charging stations. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Alderman Braithwaite?
Ordinance A7 79-13, amending passenger loading zone at 1702 Sherman Avenue and taxi cab stand on 1600 block of Oak Avenue. The Transportation and Parking Committee and staff recommend the City Council consideration of ordinance 79-013, which amends Title 10 to replace the existing cab stand at 1702 Sherman with three-minute passenger loading zone. The Music Institute of Chicago is relocating its headquarters to 1702 Sherman Avenue. The new taxi cab stand is recommended for the 1600 block of Oak Avenue. This is for introduction.
Second.
Any discussion of this? Have we talked to the taxi cab people? I mean, they know? Are we just telling them? I guess.
Marty?
Oops, here comes Mr.
Oak
Voss.
is pretty far from here.
I know.
Wha-
Well, maybe we have a certain number of stands, and so we'll always be the same number.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Voss.
members of the committee, Director Robinson, Rick Voss, Parking and Revenue Manager, City. To answer your question, yes, we reached out to the cab and the associations. We spoke to them. They know of the move, and we told them that it is beneficial because of the new restaurants located on the Oak Street area and a new one coming in.
Excellent. Okay, just care of that. All those in favor of recommending introduction, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I might take this next one if it's all right. Amending Title 10 to create a resident-only parking district. Move council approve adoption. This is if you have a city sticker, you'll be able to park within the district from Ridge to Custer, from the Yellow Line tracks to Howard Street. Excellent. So that's my motion.
Second.
And this is overparked with people who live nowhere near this neighborhood because of the convenience to Howard Street. So, anyway, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
I move ordinance 82-0-13, amending Title 10 to impose 2-hour parking on Hurd Street.
Any discussion of this? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Last item.
I move ordinance 83-0-13, amending sections 3-25-1 and 3-25-6 regarding real estate transfer tax.
I have a question from our city attorney. Could you just sort of clarify this? Are we losing money on transfer tax payments? Or maybe there's been confusion.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, it's my understanding that there have been situations where a larger entity that's come in and had title to a property has, if not refused, somewhat delayed payment since they've contended that they were not a person under the city code. And so what we've done in working with Clerk Green's office is to monitor the status of some legislation that was recently approved by the city of Chicago. And they inserted this definition in there to capture these types of transactions. So it's my understanding, and I'll defer to the city clerk because he may have a better understanding of the numbers that might be involved, but it's my understanding that this should be a capturable revenue share that may otherwise either not be captured or be delayed in getting captured by the city.
This is amazing. I mean, have we ever gotten into a fight with one of a developer?
There have been situations where I get a phone call at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and the city clerk or Ms. Otwell has relayed, a fax pattern where something is refusing to pay over, and we've usually been able to work it out through other means. But from a staff standpoint, obviously, if we can have clarity in the definition, this may prevent those type of conversations, emergency consultations in the future.
This is a good thing, very good thing. Did I just see
Yes,
Clerk
Clerk
Green?
Green is right
Clerk
there.
Green, do you want to add anything to that?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Clerk Green, City of Evanston. What we're looking at is trying to make sure that those entities who are trying to buy property when they're foreclosed to not be able to come in, pick it up for no price, and then not pay a tax on it. We're trying to go the same way that Chicago is going somewhat, where that they will have to pay a tax instead of getting an exemption of only $100.
Have we given any, I know the $100, it's $100, which is an exemption. Can you give us an accounting of any big losses that we've had because of this?
Not quite yet. I can go back and look at the numbers, but I don't think we had any big losses right at this time. We are just trying to prevent it from happening.
Okay, cool. All right, very good. Excellent. Thank you very much. This is really important. It's dear to my heart, please. All right, all those in favor of recommending this amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We're finished with our items, and now we're discussion. Utilities Department is going to give us an update. Mr. Stoneback.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. We're here tonight to give you an update on the water and sewer funds and a little bit of information about our wholesale water customers as well.
Excellent. Are we looking for the light? There we go.
And I know that the agenda indicated we were going to talk about the sewer fund first, and that this graphic refers to water sales. But water sales are the sewer fund revenues as well. In fact, if we don't meet the projection of water sales, the sewer fund suffers more because it's at a higher rate. And as you can see, the sale of water in Evanston has been decreasing. And you can see formally a projection was made in 2004 for sales that followed the red line, in 2008 following the green line, and we're currently now projecting water sales at our historic low sales, which occurred in 2011, and hopefully that we can meet those projections in the future. The sewer rate has been $3.94 since 2004.
Dave, Alderman Braithwaite.
Do you have an explanation why there's been a decrease in the sales of water?
Rain.
Rain.
It is, no, it's not just rain, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's the use of water conservation devices. So the hospitals, Northwestern, a long time ago went in and put in washing machines that use less water. Dishwashers, yes, it's working. It's great for our grandchildren and everything like that. It's very hard for us to make our revenue based on how much water we sell.
And I think we also have to admit that the cost of water and sewer, the tax is partly to blame. I know people aren't watering as frequently as they used to.
And I believe that's a green event that is hitting everywhere. It's across the country that water sales are down. The sewer rate, again, is $3.94. The average single-family residence pays approximately $450 a year for that. Because we had based our projections on selling more water in the past, particularly in 2004, the sewer fund did go into some jeopardy, and in 2010, the council approved a sale of $17 million in GO bonds that are abated from real estate taxes, and then the tax-exempt customers pay a second-tier sewer rate to make up the 22% of the water that they use to help pay the debt service on those bonds. This slide shows the expenditures out of the sewer fund. The purple being the largest one is our debt service, and that's a debt service from the $200 million long-range sewer program that was completed. It still is 60% of the sewer fund expenses. The operation and maintenance, the blue category, changes basically due to the purchase of vehicles out of the sewer fund. And then the capital improvement, which is the green area, changes some because of when we anticipate getting loans from the Environmental Protection Agency to rehabilitate large diameter sewers. This map does indicate the large diameter sewers in Evanston. There are 7.2 miles of them. They're over 100 years old. The ones that are in blue are lines that are already complete or will be completed yet this year. The ones in orange are the ones that we believe we're going to get a loan for in the very near future to allow us to line them in 2014. And then the ones that are in green are likely to get funding, again, from the EPA over the next 3 years. And then the ones that are remaining in red are the ones that are left that we have to try to get funding for at a future time as the fund balance would allow us to do. The next slide indicates the fund balance in the sewer fund. The red line is our target at $2.5 million, and you can see that we project we will be there through 2015. When the City Council approved the sale of $17 million in GO bonds, we've only sold $14 million to date. We will hold off on making a recommendation to sell any more based on actual water sales. If we have good water sales, we may not need to do it. If the water sales are not met, we could be in trouble and need to sell those bonds at a future date. But it's not recommended at this point in time.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Holmes.
Mrs. Stonebeck, do we ever, when like the map that you just showed us, what needs to be done, what's doing, do we ever have a map along with this to show what has been done and completed? Because I think that would be really helpful to residents to know. Because I don't know about other wards, but the question we get all the time is, they're always doing so what's done? I can see here what needs to be done in 2013, what's to be done in 2013, 14, 16, 15, all the way up to 17. But we've done sewers that are completed, correct?
Not large diameter sewers. We have done a multitude of smaller diameter sewers, less than 36-inch diameter, and we could generate a map that would show those sewers that have been rehabilitated.
I just think that would be helpful. And then are there other large ones? These are the only large ones that we have?
These are all the large diameter sewers in Evanston in the combined sewer system. In the new relief sewer system,
right,
we have much larger sewers that are relatively new and not of maintenance concern at this point in time.
Right, but they're done. I mean, they're complete, right?
Yes.
We put them in, and that's all I'm saying. I think that people need to know what we have done.
Oh, the relief sewer system?
I don't care what size they are.
Sure.
Just so people will know, because I think that people forget that we have completed,
Yes.
some things, and there's more to be done, and we all understand. I mean, we understand that. I'm not sure the residents always understand that. So if we could show both at the same time, we've done this much, but we still have this much to go.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
I just think it would be helpful.
Okay. I'll move on to the water fund at this point in time. The water fund, the rate is $1.80 per 100 cubic foot. That's the rate as of July 1st, 2013. We did just have 3 water rate increases over the past 3 years, but prior to that, we had not raised the water rate since 1998. We did implement a 10%, a 5%, and a 3% rate increase. The last one, the 3%, went into effect July 1st. There is an additional bi-monthly charge for the first 500 cubic feet of water, and the average single-family resident pays about $192, or just under $200 a year for water. This chart indicates the expenses out of the water fund, and you can see that it grows tremendously, and the tremendous growth is in the capital improvement item, and I'll get to that in a minute. The blue block indicates our operation and maintenance costs, and that varies between $8.5 to $9.5 million a year. Our debt service is relatively small. That's the small purple line in there, but you can see that it is growing. Our capital improvement project is normally between $6 and $7 million a year, but you can see that it's increasing significantly in 2015, 16, and 17, and that is because, as I made you aware in January of this year, that the 5 million gallon reservoir on Northwestern property, the roof structure of that has failed, and we need to probably build a new reservoir. We are doing lots of different studies on that. We have a cost to rehabilitate the roof of it, but the latest cost is $7 million, and do you want to put a $7 million lid on top of a structure that's already 80 years old and would only have another 20 years of life expectancy for the rest of it? So we're weighing our options of making that repair, building new reservoirs at different sites and locations. So, but the need is there one way or the other. The other major capital item is, beyond what we've projected in the past, is the replacement of a 30-inch feeder main that's estimated to cost $7.2 million. And we'll get into that in a little bit more.
Dave, this might be a really stupid question. Does the reservoir have to be right near the lake? Is the water pumped directly?
It's what goes into the reservoir is water that has been treated through the treatment plant, so it has to be close to the treatment plant. It could move, but then you have pumps and pipelines to get it there, and pumps and pipelines to get it back to the distribution system. Out of the capital program, some of the major items, and one thing I do want to point out is that when we do projects at the water treatment plant under contract to Northwest Water Commission, because they take about 59 to 60% of the water we produce, they wind up paying 59 to 60% over time as the assets are depreciated for those improvements that we put in. However, their contract is very clear that they don't need to pay for any increased reservoir storage. So they would be in line if we were to build exactly the same size reservoir. They would have to pay their fair share of that over time. We predict, though, that we want to build a larger one because we feel that we don't have enough storage on site as it is now for situations that might occur, such as a fire or the intake freezing up, things that have happened in the recent past. And that cost, again, is about $26 million. For a 14 million gallon reservoir, that might be shooting for the moon. We might only get a 5 or 7. We have yet to figure that out. The plant and reliability improvements deal with infrastructure at the water plant that we feel we need to make redundant and improve our resiliency. And then an intake improvement is to put the chemical feed line back in our 48-inch intake and then also add that heating system to that intake as well. And that is a project that we're hoping to get an IEPA loan for as well, we would pay at a lower debt service on that. Other major projects that we're looking to do that the Commission would not be responsible for because they don't deal in our distribution system is the standpipe painting and repair. So we have 2 large standpipes. We've been deferring the maintenance of those standpipes for several years. They do need a new coating system, painting coating system on them, and we estimate that cost to be $2.7 million. And then, as we have made you aware, we are replacing the remote teller metering units, the boxes on the outside of everybody's homes to get their water meter signal sent back to the water plant for billing purposes. And then again, we still have the water distribution system in Evanston. So on this map, we've outlined the 30-inch water main that in black. That is the one that was constructed in 1936, so it's approximately 80 years old. It's 30-inch in diameter, and we've already had 3 leaks on it. And fortunately, those leaks have occurred during the day and were found early on and repaired relatively quickly. My fear is if one of these leaks occur at night and nobody observes it, by the next morning we're going to have a river running down the street because of the amount of water that will come through a 30-inch water main. So that's why we're recommending it. It's also a vital water main for our whole distribution system because it takes water from the water plant and puts it into a grid that goes around South Evanston and is the major feed line for all South Evanston as well as to some of our wholesale water customers. All the pipelines shown in red up there are already over 100 years old. All the ones that are shown in orange are over 80 years old. So we have 50% of our distribution system is more than 80 years old at this point in time. So we believe that it is appropriate to continue funding to replace 1.5 miles of water main, or 1% of our distribution system on average. We also hope that we get additional TIF funding. The water main in downtown Evanston right now is being replaced from TIF funding, so we gain a little bit on that, and we're hoping the main Chicago TIF can, as it gets set up, can help pay for water mains in that area as well. So we do have a large capital need. I put this slide in, and the main purpose behind that is hopefully that you can see our normal capital program is $6 to $7 million, but between putting in the reservoir and replacing the 30-inch water main over the next 3 years, we're talking a very large expense out of our capital program. But once that's done, we're going back down to what we consider to be our normal expenditures, with $3 million towards water main and approximately $3 million improvements at the treatment plant. Based on that, we're going to propose that the city have 3 10% water rate increases in 2014, 15, and 16. And this chart indicates our current rate as of July 1 being $1.80 a 100 cubic feet, and right below that is $2.41, 1,000 gallons. That's what the number that is more commonly used is the cost per 1,000 gallons. And then we're also indicating that the rate increase that would have, it comes out, I believe, to on your overall bill, it comes out to be about a 10% increase. This chart just indicates that we try to maintain a $3.5 million reserve in the water fund, and that's to, if we have very low water sales one year, we don't want to be broke. We also have, if we have a major catastrophe at the water plant, if the reservoir were to fail and we need to start doing some kind of temporary repair on it, the funding would be there that would allow us to do that. These next couple slides showed a summary of Evanston's water and sewer charges combined. And when we compared ourselves to other communities, we found that Evanston has the very highest sewer rate, and Evanston has the very lowest water rate. And when you mix the two together, we come out right in the middle, which the next slide will indicate. And what we're trying to indicate on this slide is if we do a 10% water rate increase over the next 3 years, when you add your water bill and your sewer bill together, it winds up being a 3% rate increase. So it's not quite as bad as it sounds. It's a $64 increase over, increase over those 3 years. So we would, the average single-family residence would go from paying $645 a year to $709 a year after those proposed 3 10% rate increases, which again is $64 over 3 years. It comes out to being referencing a 10% increase over that time. This is the comparison
Can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
This is the comparison of communities that we feel are appropriate to compare to. We only included communities that are served by the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, because if they are not served by them, they might have different type of sewer rate. And their communities surround us, they don't take groundwater, they take lake water. And this is all based on the assumption that the people would take 86,000 gallons per year. So we also know that Chicago will be raising their water rates. They still have two more 15% rate increases that will occur over the next 2 years. So that would impact a lot of these communities where their rates are going to go up as well. And then, yes, Evanston does pay a very high sewer charge, but then when we have the significant rain events, Evanston does not have the same amount of damage and flooding that the other communities do. So our program's been successful. It's been very expensive, but it's been successful. And other communities are paying fairly close to what Evanston residents do, and yet they still have that large sewer project. And again, as I indicated earlier, after the proposed 3% rate increases, which I know has not been approved or anything, the rate would be $7.09. $709, I'm sorry, after 3 raises. So we would still be right in there. And we also know that Chicago's rates are going to go up. Niles' rates are going to go up. Lincolnwood's rates are going to go up. All those communities' rates are going to go up as Chicago increases their water rates because they purchase their water from Chicago.
Dave?
Yes.
When we go with new customers, they're not affected by our sewer rate at all. They're just affected by the water rate.
That's
so
correct.
How do these increases affect the possibility of adding new customers? And I understand what you said, the balance with the other community, with Chicago raising the water, et cetera. But how do you think it's going to affect us?
I think that the reservoir will have somewhat of an impact, but again, because as we add other wholesale customers, we would have a need to increase the amount of stored water that we had at the water plant anyway. So we already anticipate it, and when we drive proposed rates to those communities, we included a cost for building a reservoir.
I was going to ask you, we are allowed to pass some of those costs on because they're...
Absolutely. What we can't, well, and it changes. So Skokie, if we build, not by their current contract, but if we had a contract that was based on revenue requirements and cost of service, our distribution system would be included. A portion of our distribution system for water mains greater than 12 inches in diameter would be included into their rate, because that's how we get the water to the village of Skokie, is through our distribution system. If Lincoln were to become a wholesale water customer, they would be responsible for a portion of our distribution similarly. The Northwest Water Commission does not use our distribution system, so they don't have to pay for any of it. Some of the other wholesale water customers that we're talking to at this point in time would not use our distribution system. They would build their own pipeline right to the treatment plant, and they would not have to help pay for. The rate would not include our distribution mains because they don't utilize them. This chart just tries to indicate what we are proposing. The red line is Evanston, and we're showing the proposed rate increases on that. The blue line is indicating what Chicago is doing. They're significantly raising their water rates, but they are also significantly raising their sewer rates concurrently. So that's why their combined average is going up. And then the green line is the average of all those communities that we compared. It's the average cost of all those together, and it assumes that the communities that are getting their water from Chicago will pass on the 15% rate increase that Chicago is passing on, and then assumes a 2% rate increase thereafter, which is how the Chicago ordinance is currently set up. The rate will increase by an inflationary factor every year. The future challenges for Evanston, in addition to the building of a reservoir and replacing that large diameter 30-inch water main, is that unless we have even more significant water rate increases, we're going to have to sell a lot of water bonds. And right now that seems okay because our debt service is so low. But if there isn't a significant change, we're going to be placed into a situation where we're paying debt service to the same level, if not more, of the bonds that we want to borrow. And so that becomes a challenge that I want to make sure everybody here is aware of. If we're going to maintain the infrastructure that we have and do that, we're going to do it unless we have significant rate increases. We do plan to perform a capital study in 2014, and we'll evaluate things such as selling bonds for 30-year term rather than 20-year term, because the majority infrastructure that we put in has a life of 100 years or 80 years, so we may not want to limit ourselves to just a 20-year debt service. We're also looking at, do we set up a capital program and we sell all the bonds at one time rather than every year selling bonds? We could sell them maybe all at one time. So that's our what we plan to look at. And then the aging of the water plant infrastructure itself. We still have 6 filters that were constructed in 1913 being operated. We have 6 filters that were constructed in 1923 that are in operation. We have clear wells from 1923 that are, the concrete in those are susceptible as well. So that's why we're talking about reliability projects, and we're just concerned that at some point those major infrastructures may need to be improved as well. In our projection, we only showed through 2017 because in 2017, beyond that, it becomes very questionable. The addition of new wholesale water customers could help our picture out a lot as well, and we don't know where we are with that yet. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. Future water consumption trends, if we don't meet what we project as water sales, will have an impact on it. In 2017, the water supply contract with Skokie ends, and we have to negotiate a new contract with them. And then we've actually started talking to the Northwest Water Commission about reopening their agreement and locking them into a longer agreement and getting the benefit of that, and talking to them and seeing what the feasibility of that is, and again, trying to partner with them as we look for other wholesale water customers, which leads right into my segue for this. So Skokie has been our customer since 1944. The last agreement was signed in 97 and expires in 17, and they're currently paying about $1 per 1,000 gallons. The Northwest Water Commission became a customer in 1985. Their contract expires in 2030, but they still have until September to tell us if they want to lengthen or shorten the contract by 5 years. We don't have that yet, and they are currently paying about 60 cents a 1,000 gallons. And one reason that they're paying less than other communities, again, is that they do not have to help pay for our distribution system because they own the water main all the way to the water treatment plant. We did partner with the communities that are up here and the Northwest Water Commission to do an engineering and financial analysis of building a transmission main to deliver water to these communities. That is complete, and those communities have that information. The communities that we are currently selling water to are shown in red, and then the communities that we are talking to are shown in yellow. Morton Grove did not participate in the engineering study, but they are aware of the prices that we began negotiations with some of the other communities, and they are now interested in talking to us again now. The outlook, Lincolnwood, no modification is needed at the water plant. A dedicated transmission main would have to be built in South Evanston, starting at the intersection of Cleveland and Hartree and going south on Hartree through James Park, back onto Hartree to Howard Street, and then west on Howard Street to the city border.
Dave?
Yes.
Could that be an opportunity to put a roadway through James Park at that point?
It would be an opportunity. I don't know that I want to make that decision.
No, I know, but that is at the far west end of the park.
It is.
There are frequently requests. I mean, ideas about that have been going on forever and ever and ever.
James, or the hill would be to the west of it, as I recall. So, but
the hill would be to the west, or
yes,
the roadway would be to the west?
The roadway would be east of the hill, as I recall. Knowing where our current water mains go, they go just east of.
Could we tunnel through that?
No, that would not be feasible.
Just joking. Well, I mean, I'm thinking that we should give some thought to that.
Thank you for making us aware of that. It's something that we would look into and study the feasibility of doing it. I'm not sure if the CTA track there, if there's I know there's a walkway through it, but I don't think it's large enough for vehicle traffic, so that would be a large expense. So it'd be something that we could definitely look into. We've already had some serious conversations with Lincolnwood. We have another meeting set up with them in the very near future, and we hope to get them under a contract in a year, within this year, and be able to potentially construct the water main next year and potentially deliver water in late 2014 or early 2015. Niles, Park Ridge, and Des Plaines, and I'm going to throw Morton Grove in there now, are other customers that we have talked to. We've given them a proposed price for the water and backed down the transmission main study for them and told them what the two costs would be, and they appear to like it because it is substantially lower than what the Chicago rate is. And if we were to sell water to those 3 or 4 communities, we would need to increase the capacity of the water treatment plant from 108 to 132 million gallons. That is estimated to cost about $40 million to do. It'd be a bond issue by Evanston, but again, the return on rate and the rate structure make sure that we recover all of our rate and costs, and then we get a reasonable rate on top of that. The plant expansion would take approximately 3 years to complete, and the installation of a pipeline out to those communities. The Northwest Water Commission and the Joint Action Water Authority, the Northwest Suburban Municipal Joint Action Water Authority, are large partners. We already provide to the commission, but not to the Jawa. The Jawa is comprised of 7 communities that take about 33 million gallons a day. And if we were to build a pipeline out to those communities, to their site, we would expect to build a tunnel because of the size of the pipeline that would go out there. And we would expect that the Northwest Water Commission has indicated that they would want to participate in that because that would be their redundancy pipeline as well. We also feel that if that tunnel were to be constructed, that the other 4 communities that we already talked about would get right on board because the tunnel would basically go right by where they need to receive water as well, and it helps them reduce their overall cost. This, though, would require a major water plant expansion to $214 million. It's very expensive ordeal to try to get, but again, if the rates are based appropriately and you put a return on rate on it, we think that would be very good for the city. We've asked all these.
Is that 214 million gallons, not dollars, right?
No, that's 214 million gallons a day
yeah.
of being able to produce water. The cost for it, though, is $160 million.
Okay, yeah, but I know you said 214. I just want to make sure I understood.
Right.
It's doubling the size of the plant.
It would double the size of the treatment plant.
Right.
And we have submitted the proposal to the Joint Action Water Authority and asked them to weigh their decisions. They have a little bit different scenario than the other communities in that they actually own a pumping station and water storage facilities that are located on O'Hara Field. And if they were to receive water from Evanston, they would have to build all new facilities somewhere. So not only do they have the cost of purchasing the water, of building the transmission main out to that site, they have an additional capital cost of building their own storage site to receive the water in. So there is substantial capital cost in doing any of these. Again, to expand the plant to 132 is estimated to cost $40 million, and I'm sorry, the cost to expand the plant to 214 million gallons a day is 230 million gallons. I'm sorry, $230 million. So it's not a cheap endeavor by any means. The sewer fund, again, we think that it's in wrapping up, in summary, we think the sewer fund is doing fine. We may need to sell the $3 million at some future date. That's dependent on water sales. The water fund, we have the 2 major projects that we have to undertake, and then we also have to look at the balance between selling bonds and raising rates to meet our capital improvement needs. And then I'm ready to take any questions.
Well, I think you were generous in letting us ask as we went along. Do you have anything?
Yeah,
And Dave, we talked about this probably about a month ago. Something that I'm interested in seeing in this $230 million spend is just a local employment component. And I think you gave me an example of something that you've done in the past, Alderman Rainey, before I was on council with another water project. So I'm not expecting an answer now.
program.
Yeah,
It was
just
a
a training
legitimate
program that
training.
would involve opportunities for local residents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much a flag person out there, it was an actual training program.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to either, what do you call, when you tunnel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sewer
Open
project.
cut and tunnel,
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
ways
I see
of
this as a
doing it.
huge opportunity.
Yeah.
There are people who did become certified, whatever.
Whatever you call
in
those
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
From that project.
Yeah. And it's well-paying jobs, too.
Yes.
Anything else? Alderman Grover, Alderman Burris? No. Thank you, Dave. That was
Thank you for your
really
time.
detailed. One quick question. By raising rates, do we get a better opportunity for loans from IEPA, or do they do their, consideration another way?
You have to show the IPA that you have the wherewithal to reimburse them the money that they lend you. So if you're going to borrow a whole bunch of money, you have to show that your rates are producing enough funds to reimburse
Oh,
them.
yes. I mean, the more we raise the rates, the easier it will be for us to pay, right?
Correct.
I would think.
Madam Chair, Marty Lyons, the other reason to have the rates stable, rather than saying raising, but having rates stable and funding the operations is Moody's or any of those, if we're looking at bonds, they want to make sure that we have coverage through water revenues. Otherwise, they'd want them as general obligation bonds. So we would want rates to cover the bonds.
Thank you. If the committee doesn't mind, could we, thank you both, could we, I don't know, the banner policy, we have very few minutes left, and I know that the people regarding the Civic Center lease are here. Do we want to take them first, or what? I'll leave it up to the committee. Take this, okay. Who are you? I know you're here. Jim, Mark, and Karen are here for the Civic Center. You're okay. Would you like to come up? What, you want to make?
Oh, yes, I was just going to
Okay.
make a
Director
comment.
Robinson would like
Yes.
to-
We received a request to lease some space in the Civic Center from the Northwest Center Against Sexual Abuse, or Northwest CASA. And so they want to lease the space free of charge. They provide services to the north and northwest suburbs of Cook County. So they are here to speak out on behalf of the services that they provide, as well as their need for space. And so that's what we're here to discuss. And if the committee agrees, then we would actually get with legal and prepare a resolution that we would bring back in August.
Right, and the lease would be no rent lease?
Yes, it would be no rent, and then we have a drawing in the packet that shows the space that is under consideration.
Would you remind us of the square footage?
I
Pardon me?
can't find it anymore. I read it, and
It's
now
in
I
there.
can't find it. Just a minute.
It's discussion. It's way at the end of the agenda packet for AMPW.
Let me see, 1, 2,
Yep, it's the cross mark.
It's there. It's really.
yeah, it's 3 spaces, 42. It's just,
Does it include this?
yeah, it's just over 300 square feet of space on the ground level. It is at the very end of the health department where the restrooms are. There are 2 offices that are just past the fire doors, and then it's a seating area just outside of that. I do have a drawing that I can share with you. If you would like to see the
I
seated area.
have questions. I have a lot of questions.
Okay, all right. So the proposal before us is how do we we need to discuss whether or not we would like to lease at no charge about 300-plus square feet on the ground floor to this organization. And this is a discussion item, so Alderman Holmes, you indicated you wanted to discuss first, then Alderman Burris. I'm wondering, would you like to hear from the group first, or do you want to begin the discussion?
Nope.
Hear from the
Let
group.
them-
All right.
if they
Who's
wanna go.
representing the group?
We have several representatives.
Okay, well, let me ask a huge favor of you to keep it short, because you see what's happening out there? We are running way behind, but we're very interested in hearing from you.
Thank you, and I will keep it very brief. My name is Jim Hunick, and I'm Executive Director of the Northwest Center Against Sexual Assault, also known as Northwest CASA. And this is a proposal for two agencies, Northwest CASA and the Children's Advocacy Center of North Cook County. Both of our agencies work with victims of sexual abuse. And the request is for a counseling space that we may have in Evanston to provide free counseling to child, adolescent, and adult victims of sexual abuse. We were approached a year ago, May, by the city to see whether or not we had any interest in space in the ground floor, because a lot of that space was vacant. But as you probably know, Erie Health...
Wait. We contacted you about giving you space.
To look at space on the ground floor level. This was before the Erie Health Center moved into those spaces.
Could you say who contacted you?
I dealt with Jonathan Webb in the health department.
But not to give them space, but they were looking at anyone to rent space.
Looking for space, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Right.
Okay. So after Erie Health Center had vacated or plans to vacate the space, we brought the issue back to the city for consideration. Our center, the Northwest CASA, works with victims of sexual abuse. As many of you probably know, it's a crime, and it occurs much more commonly than we like to believe. We work with the Evanston community to treat victims. We work at the Evanston Township High School to do presentations to their students. One of their social workers, Marie Levatino, reports that when we do a presentation to, we'll say, 700 students there, over 200 students indicate that they would like to speak to a counselor about abuse. 50 to 60 of those students complete T-shirts indicating that they were victims of abuse. So the need for that service is quite high in Evanston. Before we came to Evanston, because our main office is in Arlington Heights, and we just opened a satellite in Evanston in November. We share space at the YWCA in Evanston North Shore. But before we came, we met with the police department to see if they could support a need for our services, and they indicated that they see probably about 50 victims a year of sexual abuse, many of whom are in need of counseling. Our services are free, they're unlimited, and we believe that having them here in Evanston, it would become a vital resource to the community because the need is so great.
All right. I'm going to ask you to just slow down for a minute and let the committee ask some questions. Would you like to come up to the podium, because there might be questions for you too?
Sure.
Want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Mark Parr, and I'm the Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center.
Okay, good. All right, first, we have Alderman Holmes was first, and then Alderman Burris, and then Alderman Grover, and then Alderman Braithwaite. Questions?
Well, since you just mentioned the high school and your work there, did you approach the high school about free space? I have an issue with the space here at the city in terms of being free space, because we have a lot of other not-for-profits, I believe, in the past who've approached the city, and we've not done that. So I'd be real concern about that. So I would think the high school may have some space, especially since there's so many students there. Or, maybe some of the other agencies that might be willing to share space with you, since you're looking for free space.
Yeah. And that's reasonable. One of the things and one of the reasons why we're considering this space not only is because it's free, but because it's accessible. We would need space that's available, 6 days a week, so that people could come for counseling. As you well know, a high school does not have space that's accessible all hours of the day and night and on Saturdays. And so access would be one issue. Also, adult victims in Evanston may feel very uncomfortable coming to a space like a high school because an adult would possibly stand out as receiving services there. But should this initiative fail, we still hope to find space in Evanston. The reason we're asking for free space is really because every dollar we can save in rent, we can put in counseling services to serve victims.
Oh, no, I understand. Oh, believe me, I understand. I understand the not-for-profit world real well. But I'm just saying that there's a way in which to maybe work with some other not-for-profits that might have space that would be open. And I believe the high school is someone's there usually 24/7, if I remember. There are people there all weekend. So I don't think that, and adults go there for educational classes, for swim lessons, for that kind of thing. So that might be a real viable option.
Alderman Burris?
Well, Alderman Holmes, you said everything I wanted to say, pretty much. I agree. I agree with you. And if we have a not-for-profit coming forward, obviously you do amazing work. It's very important for the community, not just this community, but overall, and it's extremely difficult. So this is not about your organization or you or any of that. It's more the process. We have a lot of not-for-profits in this community, and obviously would love to have free space as well. We have many that come to community development Act Committee to ask for funding as well. So I just would have a little bit of an issue with this process. So,
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great program, essential services. I'm dismayed to learn that our Evanston victims have to travel to Arlington Heights, navigate their way to Arlington Heights for counseling services, especially for our youth victims, which I see as a big barrier to actually getting effective counseling and treatment. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in pursuing negotiations for a lease agreement that might involve payment of some rent. Our understanding that the Civic Center is an ideal location because of its accessibility, but also because of some degree of confidentiality. That is, folks could come to the Civic Center for any number of reasons, not just to seek counseling for sexual abuse problems. So I wondered if you'd be willing to engage in some discussions about payment of rent, if that's within the realm of reasonable for you.
I think that we're committed to and interested in continuing the services that we've started in the past year, both in our own ways. And so however we might best be able to do that, I'm sure we'd be at least interested in looking at.
I think you'd find lots of support in the community, lots of support. We have, as you may already know, a great group of human services agencies who are already obviously referring clients to you. So we'd like you here. I just wonder if there's a way that makes it easier for us to justify making available space, public space, in a public
Alderman Braithwaite?
property.
Yeah, I also agree with many of the conversations on the committee. I think it's very essential services. I do have a couple of quick questions. Do you have a copy of your annual report or just your overall operating budget that you can present to the committee at a later date? I'd be interested to see that. And are you currently paying rent at the YWCA? Mm-hmm. You are. So.
And we're actually in the Family Focus building on Dewey, and we are paying rent.
Would you be replacing either of those locations
or
with this one?
expanding?
Or expanding?
For us, we would be looking to move.
Okay.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be moving together. You would be moving together. No.
I think both agencies, if this space were available, both agencies would share that 2-office space.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
in addition to the Y and
we
family
would,
focus. Yes
we
or
would,
no?
well, it's complicated because
Okay.
we actually have a part-time person who's employed at the Y, so she sees her clients at the Y. But we need additional space, so we would move two part-time people to this office space if it were available.
Okay. Here's what I think we should do. We should have a motion to refer this back to staff to negotiate a leasing opportunity with this group in the Civic Center for remuneration of some kind. In other words, we're not accepting of the free rent issue, but we are accepting of the idea of there being a tenant here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We have space available, and
it's for rent.
and negotiating a lease with payment of rent.
Yeah, that's my motion. Also move.
I'll second.
We object to staff, we don't accept staff's recommendation or discussion point that they should have free rent. We're saying that, yes, we have no problem.
She asked about the space availability. That's what I'm.
There is space available,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's why they were brought to us.
Yes,
There's space available.
the space that we are proposing on the drawing, the two offices are space that would be, when Erie relocates, the health department would actually move, those staff members would move down, and then that would leave that space available.
So it's not quite available right now, but it will be available within a couple of months, right? That's what the memo said. All right? So Alderman Grover, restate my jumbled motion.
The motion is to ask our staff to please continue discussions with you specific to a lease that would include payment of rent.
And I'll second.
For the space.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of this recommendation to our staff, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll do the best we can. The rent is very reasonable. All right, we have an update from the Law Department regarding liquor code revisions. I'm wondering if you're standing there to tell us we can pass on that tonight.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good evening. I'd recommend that you could pass on that, and I'd also believe you have not gotten to the banners.
Banner policy.
So we'll come back at a future meeting with both of those to give you a few moments between committee meetings.
Fine, thank you very much. What? Okay, what, the rule about our next meeting? Well, we're not going to make it at 7:15, I'm afraid, so, pardon me?
25 after?
At 25 after, we'll be back, yes.
Where's Yvanda's office? Right here. This is Yvanda. This is north of here.
You may leave.
So this is Yvanda's office with the circle, and here's Nicola. So it's back beyond, yeah, this is north up here.